What's up everyone, Joseph Parker here and you're watching Boxing Social.
This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social. I'm delighted to be joined this morning by former WBO World Heavyweight Champion Joseph Parker. How are you, Joseph?
I'm good, thanks. It's actually, this is my second day here in London now from Vegas, so still jet lagged, but I'm getting over it quite well.
Well, I'm very glad that you've made time for me this morning. As you say, the jet lag and the travelling, and you're a busy man with your fight coming up next week, so I do appreciate that.
No worries, all good.
So, basically, I want to sit down with you today. Something I just mentioned to you off camera. I've read a lot about you in the last probably year or two, or probably longer. Never really seen what Joseph Parker the person's like. It's always been boxing stories, which is obviously convenient. You're a boxer. But I'd like to sort of rewind right back. Tell me about when it all started. How did you get involved in boxing?
Well, I was born in New Zealand, and my parents were both born in Samoa, and they moved to New Zealand for a better future. And obviously, when I was born, my dad loved boxing. He's named after one of those champions back in the Jack Dempsey. My dad's name is Dempsey, and he couldn't box. He has a sort of disability as a young boy. Someone stood on his leg, and so one leg is skinnier than the other leg, and he couldn't box, but he always loved it, had a passion for it, and followed it with a lot of interest. Watching different tapes of Mike Tyson down to Roy Jones, Lennox Lewis, all sorts. And when I was born, myself and my brother, he introduced us to boxing at a very young age, probably the age of 3 or 4, holding up his hand, telling us to punch it, and buying us little gloves, pads, and probably at the age of 10, we sort of went to a gym, started training there, and I had my first fight at 12, and my brother joined his first fight at 10 years old. So it was a very young age. He instilled in us that we loved watching boxing videos and training and all that, and then slowly got into it from there.
It's something that I did actually read about you, about your dad's name, Dempsey. Yeah. Was that always going to be the way for you then? As a young kid, was that sort of earmarked for you as a future with a dad, named after Jack Dempsey? Was he always going to push you towards boxing?
He always did. He always pushed us towards boxing. But there was many things that we did as kids growing up. I played rugby, played volleyball, but boxing was always the one that sort of took our attention, and my brother and I. And so every time we did other sports, we always came back to boxing. And so he pushed us towards boxing, and then we found a passion for it and a love for the sport, and then we continued fighting. And then he sort of didn't want us to see us get hurt or get punched in the head. He told us, hey boys, boxing's, it's a bit hard, and it's too late now. We're already boxing now. We love it ourselves. You can't stop us now because we have a passion for it. And so thanks for your concern, but just enjoy the ride.
Tell me about what it was like growing up in New Zealand.
Growing up in New Zealand was fantastic. I love New Zealand. I've travelled the whole world, but I love going back home. New Zealand is a place where we had a great upbringing. Parents who both who loved all of us equally. Parents that had great examples of hard work, and parents who supported us in anything that we wanted to do, whether it was boxing, like I said, volleyball, playing instruments. And so we had a good upbringing, very loving home.
As I understand it, obviously you have Samoan heritage. Both of your parents are Samoan, is that right?
Both my parents were born in Samoa, but they moved to New Zealand for a better future, and that's where myself, my brother and sister were born, in New Zealand.
Every time I've interviewed you over the last probably 18 months or so, I've been not corrected, but I think the first time I introduced you was New Zealand's Joseph Parker, and you said I'm New Zealand Samoan or Samoan New Zealand. How sort of entwined are you? How important is it to sort of recognise both of those areas of your heritage?
It's for me, it's very important. New Zealand as well. I was born, and I'm a New Zealander, but I'm also Samoan. And at a young age, probably when I was 1 year old, my dad would take us to Samoa every year. So I've been to Samoa so many times, and I continue to go there probably once or twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. It's important to understand the heritage of where you're from. I can speak Samoan fluently, so I really I love being a New Zealander Samoan. I love the culture. I love the upbringing that we have, and it's helped me be the person I am today.
How are the cultures different from Samoan to New Zealand? What can you take from each culture? What makes you who you are, given that's your background?
Well, in Samoa, there's a lot of respect. They teach you, there's respecting your elders, being humble, trying your best. And I think for Samoa, the population that it has, it's produced so many great athletes around the world, not just boxing, but rugby players, NFL. So for the population, they've been able to produce a lot of great athletes, or great people in general. And in New Zealand, there's great learning in New Zealand, and great opportunity to pursue. I had great people in New Zealand that helped me when I was boxing, investing, sponsorship, all that kind of stuff. So Samoa, they have great talent, and all the other islands, Fiji and Tonga. But New Zealand is a place where opportunities, you can give you the opportunity to sort of chase your dreams, and they help you and push you and support you.
Now, something that I always kind of associate with watching you fight, from one of my first memories of watching you fight on the TV, is that incredible ring entrance that you have when you fight back at home. Tell me a little bit about that. As I understand, you're announced also Joseph Parker, but also by your Samoan name. Tell me what that is. What does that mean, and just why is it so great to watch? Really?
Yeah, so in Samoa, I have a high chief name, and the high chief name that you hear being announced is Lupe Suleai La'auli, and then Joseph Parker. Lupe Suleai is a name from a village in Samoa, on the other side of Samoa, and then Suleai La'auli is another name. And so I have two high chief names, which I'm very proud of, and the reason why we always announce it around the world. And it was so great to hear Michael Buffer announce it as well. And so it means it's a warrior. It's a warrior name, and it's very convenient to what I do, as a warrior and a boxer. And so I'm very proud that the name's always announced, and it just shows the strong connection I have with Samoa and the heritage.
You've touched upon it already at the start of this interview. We're joined to our left by John, your brother. Tell me about what it was like growing up with a younger brother. He's 2 years younger than you, I believe. Yeah, what was that like? I mean, you mentioned that you were into boxing from a young age. Were you boxing in the gym, outside the gym with each other? What was that like growing up?
Yeah, we were boxing at home, sparring each other, but in the gym. But for us, it was very competitive. He could do doubles and triples and the skipper rope. I couldn't even do it, and then I learned how to do it, and then sort of challenged each other. He did 1,000 abs, and I did 100 abs, and so he was always ahead of me in terms of physical training and looking good. I have to train for 2 months to go to great shape. He trains for a week and he's in great shape. So there's different genes as well, but it's always been competitive. But in saying that, we love and support each other fully, and so we. Now that he's not boxing at the moment and just relaxing for a bit, he's here with me at every trip. He's here with me at every fight that I have, to be by my side and to show his support and his love, and it's great to have him here.
How important is that to have somebody who is your brother? I mean, you don't really get much closer than that, but having him around the camp, but he also has that insight into boxing, and also knows you. He knows you from when you very first started as a boxer. He knows you inside out, both inside the ring and outside the ring. How important is that?
It's very important. For him, he's seen the ups and downs. He's seen the struggle. He's seen the journey, and so when he's in training camp, he knows what to do in terms of helping me, because he knows how hard it is being an athlete or a boxer himself. And so he does everything he can to try and make it a lot easier for me. Same as Kevin, and same as Kevin's son Taylor and my dad. Everyone tries to make it a lot easier for me in camp, because it's already, camp's hard enough as it's, on its own. Training hard, day in and day out. So we always try and make it joyful and happy, and a lot of laughter.
Now, obviously, you've achieved great things in the professional game. You were also a very successful and established amateur. Give us a little bit of a rundown from your amateur pedigree.
As an amateur, I think the first 5 major tournaments that I won. At the age of 18, I traveled to India, Commonwealth silver champs. I went to Azerbaijan for the world champs, youth champs, got a bronze medal. Singapore Olympics, got a silver medal. China Open, got a gold medal, and so on. Serbia, got a gold medal in Darwin. So as an amateur, I started traveling at the age of 16. I think it's important as an amateur to travel around the world and gain experience to help you with your professional career. Without those experiences of traveling, training in different countries, competing against the top in the world, I don't think I'll be where I am in the moment if I didn't, sort of experience that in the past.
Was it always going to be professional boxing for you? Did you always see that as the end goal when you were going to these amateur tournaments, when you were competing against the best amateurs in the world? Were you always having an eye on turning professional one day?
I always knew it was boxing. My brother John always knew it was going to be boxing for us. My dad knew it was going to be boxing, but we just didn't know when. We were just waiting for the time when it would happen, And so I thought that I'll turn professional later when I was a little bit older, and I thought that I'll do well when I was a little bit older. But everything came quite quickly, and I feel very blessed, and I feel like everything that we did leading up to this point or leading up to turning pro all paid off. My parents invested a lot of money in sending me around the world. Sometimes New Zealand have a lot of funding, and so it's so great to be able to do well and give back to those who loved you and supported you from the beginning.
You've just touched upon it from a base of an amateur point of view, traveling the world and visiting all these different countries, gaining that experience. You moved to Las Vegas, or your training base is Las Vegas. How important is that for you? Did you ever envision that for yourself as growing up in New Zealand, that one day you'd be training in Las Vegas? And how beneficial has that been to you as you've made your mark as a pro?
Not once did I think growing up that I would turn professional and live in Vegas for training. Like, if you told me that when I was younger, amateur days, I would tell you to go away with your silly thoughts. Because there's something crazy, But moving to Las Vegas, man, I was so shocked. I was like in awe of the place because it's something that you see on TV. It's something that you hear about. But I think it's the best decision I've made in my life. Moving to Las Vegas, joining forces with Kevin, and I wouldn't be able to achieve what I have training in New Zealand, or I could have maybe achieved it if I trained somewhere else. But Vegas is being away from family and friends, comfort of your own home, a trainer who's wants nothing but the best for you. All you do is eat, train, and sleep boxing. Everything is boxing, so it prepares you well for any fight, anything coming your way.
Now, generally speaking, when you talk Las Vegas to somebody, they see showgirls, they see big bright lights, they see The Hangover on TV. But you strike me as a very reserved guy. You're very cool, seemingly difficult to fluster. What's that been like? I mean, it's not, from the sounds of things, all bright lights and showgirls. What's it like for you being based in Las Vegas? Was there ever an adjustment process initially?
Yeah, the adjustment process in the beginning was, the most hardest part was leaving family in New Zealand. Very close to my family, leaving, and then also just being introduced to a whole new structure. I thought that I was doing good in New Zealand, training and structure and eating. But when I started training in Vegas, and I look back now, everything I was doing in New Zealand was pretty rubbish, you know what I mean? There was no structure, there was no guidance, there was no sacrifice. I would hang with my friends, I would eat cheap meals, do this and do that. Whereas Vegas, I love training in Vegas because I'm away from everyone. And all I have to do is focus on boxing. And when you focus on boxing, that's what creates a champion. That's what creates a good fighter, when everything you do is boxing.
You're trained by Kevin Barry, somebody who has an extensive history in the sport, worked with the likes of David Tua, who I know is a big New Zealand hero in heavyweight boxing. How did you first get linked up with Kevin Barry?
The promotional team that I signed a contract with, Duco Events, one of the, they had a good relationship with Kevin. And so when they signed me up, they said to me, here's an option that you can have. You can go to Vegas and train with Kevin. And I was open to the idea because I wanted to improve my boxing and I wanted to get better as a fighter. And so I thought, it would be great. It would be great to move over and experience it and test it out and see what happens. And ever since we joined forces, it's been a great relationship. We work well together. We're very open with each other. It's just one of those things that it clicks straight away.
Now, while you're chilled and reserved and calm, Kevin scares me a little bit. He's a very, very intense guy, very nice guy, very pleasant, but he strikes me as something of a hard taskmaster, somebody who doesn't take any rubbish. Was there ever an adjustment period of working with Kevin, and how different are you now compared to when you first started working with him?
In the beginning, like you said, he's intense, but he has great reasons to. He's intense because he wants the best out of you. He's intense because he wants you to show everyone that you can be the best that you can be. And he wants to win every fight as just as bad as you want to win it. So that's the reason why he's intense. He's the type of person who follows a schedule, who wants everything is on time, everything is kept to this way and that way. So, but with me, it's different, you know. It's a lot different from what people experience. And so we have a great relationship. In the beginning, I was a little shy and I was a sponge, listening to everything and absorbing everything and very respectful. But now I was actually shy to ask questions in the beginning. But now, you know, I've got the confidence in myself, and after everything we've experienced being a champion, our relationship is great, you know. And I think it's continuing to get stronger.
It seems to me like we live in this era of boxing where things are coming faster. You've got fighters, Vasyl Lomachenko, I think Bin Liu fought for a world title on the Manny Pacquiao undercard in his second fight. It seems to me like trainers are getting younger as well. I spoke to Shane McGuigan a couple of weeks ago, Ben Davison, who works with Tyson Fury. Kevin is not in his 20s. There's no surprise there. What's it been like working with him? Does he still maintain the old school training methods, or has he had to? I'm assuming he's had to sort of revamp it and bring it more up to date, more modernised training. Is that right?
Yeah, he's a type of trainer who's had a lot of success with the old school methods of training. But he knows as time goes by, there's always new things that come into play, and there's always new things that can help improve not only training, fitness, movement, speed, agility, and so. I'm grateful to have a trainer who knows about old school training, but also loves to introduce new things to try and make you a complete fighter. And so he's open to it. And like you said, there's other young trainers that do this and do that, and it's great to see young trainers. But these trainers who have been here for a while, they're also very knowledgeable with the training in the past and present. So it's good to have things that you can actually experience and try and work on.
Moving away, we are here because you're fighting Dillian Whyte next weekend. Not a surprise to you, as I'm sure it's not for our viewers. Third fight in a row now in the UK. Fought Hughie Fury first, Anthony Joshua last time out, Dillian Whyte this time. What is it about the UK? We can't seem to get rid of you.
You guys love me. Listen, I don't know what it is. Do you know what it is? It's that the heavyweight division is booming here at the moment. And it's so great to be a part of this heavyweight division that it's so competitive, you know. America used to be a strong place for heavyweight boxing, for boxing in general. You come to the UK, all the big fights are here. You're selling out stadiums that are 30,000, 50,000, 70, 80,000. And so for us, we love being here. We love being part of it. We love being involved in these big events. And Duco events and Matchroom get along really well, and so I think we want to continue to make big fights and be involved in them as long as we continue to do well and keep winning.
Now, speaking of big fights, something that I've just spoken to Kevin about off camera, you just boxed on pay-per-view, contesting a unified world heavyweight title fight with Anthony Joshua. I'm sure you weren't short of offers for your comeback fight, as it were. You landed on Dillian Whyte, who is not an easy fight. I'm sure you could have taken much easier opposition. How important was it for you to come back in a meaningful fight, to test yourself against somebody like Dillian Whyte?
Well, it's very important to come back and test yourself after a loss, because the reason I say that, we could have taken easy fights, but what's the point? Everyone's goal is to be champion of the world, and what better way to do it is to challenge the best out there. We could have easily taken 2 or 3 fights where we come in and we blast out the opponent and look good, but what's that going to do with your ring experience and your confidence? And also, we go into camp for long periods of time. We've got to make it worth it, you know. And so he accepted the challenge, we accepted the challenge, and we feel like this is the fastest way for us to get back to the top and be champion. You know, we're hungry for it. He's hungry, so that's what's going to make it a tremendous, exciting fight.
Not to harp back to defeats, but we will touch upon it. The Anthony Joshua fight obviously didn't go the way that you were hoping or that you had expected it to go. What happened now you've had a chance to look back on that fight? What
happened with that fight is Joshua impressed me more than, he changed his style and surprised me actually. I didn't think he would box as good as he did. Myself, I think I focused too much on defense and movement, which was great, and not enough offense. You win fights by offense and throwing punches and combinations. And so we learned a lot from that fight, and we took a lot away from it. And I think with this training camp, it's helped us adjust and change and improve. And we feel like we've improved on those things that we were sort of lacking or those weaknesses that we had in the previous fight.
Much of the talk in the build-up to that fight was about chins. Anthony Joshua not having the best chin, Joseph Parker, the self-proclaimed granite chin. It went the distance. First time in Anthony Joshua's, first and only time in Anthony Joshua's career, it's gone the distance. Did you feel his power in there at all?
Listen, of course, every heavyweight has power, and for him, of course he has power, because obviously look at his record, 21 fights, 20 knockouts. I say he has power, I think the reason I didn't really feel the full power that he has is because I was moving well and sliding and slipping the punches, and so it didn't really catch me probably as hard as it caught other opponents that he was able to knock out. So that's the reason why I didn't feel like he had the biggest punch that I felt. But I'm sure he does have a big punch, and I'm sure if it landed correctly, things could have been different. But I think the movement was good and didn't allow him to.
A lot of the talk recently has been about Joshua Povetkin, which we'll come on to, but Dillian Whyte, potentially, if he wins the fight against you, is lined up for a possible rematch of Anthony Joshua. I'm sure you have plans of your own. Yeah. Coming through against Dillian Whyte, is that the fight that you want? Do you want the rematch of Anthony Joshua? You want to right those wrongs that you had at the Principality Stadium?
Everything goes well with the fight with Dillian Whyte, and we look good. Beating him in good fashion. A knockout would be nice. Everything goes well, a rematch with Joshua will be fantastic. But we don't care who we fight. If the rematch doesn't happen, we'll fight anyone out there, anyone and everyone. We want to fight the best in the world, because we want to be remembered as those fighters who takes up all the challenges that they can get their hands on. The best in the world, don't shy away from any challenges. But the rematch will be great. I think if we do have a rematch, there'll be a big difference. But also there'll be a big difference for him. He can adjust and change a few things that he thinks he'll do better, and I feel like I can do a lot of things better and I can get closer to catching him on that chin.
Now, you mentioned Anthony Joshua impressed you. Stylistically, it was a fight where he seemed to keep you at range. Referees aside, that seemed to be his tactics. You're fighting Dillian Whyte, quite a different style to Anthony Joshua. How do you feel like your style is going to match up well with Dillian Whyte as opposed to how it did against Anthony Joshua? I
feel like the styles are, Joshua's with the reach advantage, and he impressed me because he was able to maintain the distance that he had, and he kept me at bay with his jab, which is the most I've seen him use his jab in with his other fights. I feel like Dillian Whyte's totally different. He doesn't move as well as Joshua, and he doesn't really care about avoiding punches. He's going to come in there and throw punches and block, and so it's going to be a lot different. I think there's going to be more action in this fight than the fight with Joshua.
The build-up to this fight with Dillian Whyte is probably one of the most quiet build-ups I remember with Dillian Whyte. You're a very respectful guy, very cool and calm. I actually interviewed Dillian a few times. He is away from the cameras and sometimes on camera as well. Also a very respectful guy. Gives credit where it's due. Do you feel like, do you take anything from that? The fact that it hasn't been, the Lucas Brown build-up, for example, the Anthony Joshua build-up. It was all very similar. Yeah, the Chisora, exactly. Tables flying and stuff like that. Do you take that as a compliment? Do you think he looks at you and thinks, well, it's not going to work? What do you make of that?
I feel like, there's a lot of fighters that I feel like as a fighter, I don't think he sees me as, there's the fighters that you sort of just don't get along well with, and there's fighters that you get along well with, but you just have to take care of business. When I met him, 6 weeks ago, we got along well. There was no hate and there's no sort of dislike towards each other. We know but I think this week fight week, I think he'll step it up and say a few more things to try and get under our skin. He's the type of person that, he started doing it slowly when we were in camp, so I'm not surprised that he's sort of quiet at the moment. I'm sure he'll pick it up soon, and I'm interested to see what he'll say.
Do you feel like the last fight with Anthony Joshua, there's a lot of cameras, a lot of media attention on you? Has that helped you in the build-up to this fight? You're on pay-per-view again in the UK. You're in a big heavyweight fight. Has that experience calmed you down? You're very calm anyway, but has that calmed you in preparations for this fight? It's sort of more of the same.
Yeah, that was the most media that I've ever done in my life, and that's because involved in a big fight with Joshua, and so that kind of that really gave me a lot of confidence in doing the media stuff. But I think this fight hasn't been as busy, but we're just keeping our head down and doing our thing and training hard, and it's giving me confidence in every sort of aspect. You have confidence within yourself when you have confidence in what you say, what you do in the ring, all of that adds up to, every detail adds up to the bigger picture.
A lot of fighters talk about their first loss, how you recover from that first loss. I think the fact that you've taken the Dillian Whyte fight says a lot about your character and about how you'd like to go about that first loss. In the ensuing 2 weeks or week or days of the Anthony Joshua fight, what was your mental state like after losing your title?
I think I said it after the fight. When you do everything you can possibly in camp to get in the best shape, and when you know you've left everything, in the ring, and so you sort of did the best you can, you don't really, I don't like losing, and that was the first time I lost the bout, and it wasn't the best feeling, but when I did everything in camp to prepare well, I accepted it. And I was beaten by a better man on the day, but I know there's a lot more that I can give. I'm still young, still hungry, still want to be champion, still want to be unified champion, so the future's still bright.
As I mentioned, I was at the Joshua Povetkin press conference yesterday. Nobody better to talk about Anthony Joshua's in-ring skills and in-ring abilities than you. You fought him last time out. How did you see that fight going?
Well, Joshua Povetkin, I feel like Povetkin's the type of fighter who always, he has that power, the knockout power. And if he catches you, of course, he can knock him out. But Joshua's the type of fighter that's improving with each fight and getting better and better. And now I read somewhere that he used to do it for fun, but now he's very serious about his business. And I feel his approach now is a lot better than what his approach was in the past. And I think he'll take care of business.
One of the fights that has been talked about a lot is Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. Kind of reminds me about the build-up that you had with Anthony Joshua, where you had the press conference in Auckland, you had David doing his bits and pieces. Why are you smiling? Why are you smiling when I say that?
Because, it was all fun and games, but everything that David and the team did leading up, secured us the fight and secured us the chance to fight Joshua. And so even though some of the stunts that we pulled were funny, but it got us closer to locking the fight and eventually getting the fight sorted. And that's why we were able to have a unified sort of unification belt in a long time. I think 2 undefeated fighters. It's going to go down in history. 2 undefeated fighters, trying to unify divisions. Those stunts paid off.
No, I agree. Boxing is a funny old game, and there's no such thing as bad press. But where I was going with that is, so the kind of very public, drawn out stuff. As somebody who's been in that position before, when you've got promoters, when you've got managers, when you're not necessarily doing a lot of the talking, as Joshua and Wilder. I mean, Wilder's doing more than Joshua, but it seems to be promoters going at it in the press. Does that affect a fighter in the build-up to things? Did that affect you in the build-up to the Joshua fight?
No, it doesn't. I think promoters going at it with each other and managers and all that, it doesn't affect the fighter. I think if both fighters wanted it and agreed, the fight would have been made easily. Joshua agreed terms, we agreed terms, and that's why the fight was. It wasn't easy to make, but it took a while. Eventually, it got made. And so if it doesn't really affect the fighter. The fighter has one thing on his mind, and that's to train hard and smash the other guy as best they can.
Last question about fighters that aren't you. How do you see that fight going, Joshua Wilder, if it is made in the next, say, 6 months or year or so?
I feel like it'll be a great fight. I feel like both fighters are always improving and getting better. For me personally, I think it'll be a close fight, but I think if Wilder catches him with the right hand, I feel like Wilder has one punch knockout. But Joshua has the combinations to put you down, so it can go either way. But I'm sort of picking Wilder.
Now we're here today by the lovely river, lovely day. You brought the weather with you. Actually, it's been warm for a while, so I shouldn't say that. You're here. You've been training at David Hayes' gym, or you've done some stuff in the past with that. How's that been going, and how is it being sort of welcomed? Again, as I say, you're sort of like an honorary citizen now.
Listen, I'm spending more time here than I do actually at home, so I feel like it's great. It's always great to come back here. We have a great setup. We're comfortable here now. We have a great setup that we have a hotel. We have David Hayes' gym, and very thankful that he lets us use his gym. It's nice that we have a time to train, left alone, and we can do our thing and just focus on getting sharp. But also, and then it's so close to the hotel. We have shops all close around, so everything is structured nicely. And we're always third time here. I've actually been here probably 5 or 6 times now, so I love it here.
What kind of work have you been doing in David Hastings? We've just seen Big Joe Joyce block out the sun walking behind us. Have you been sparring with him at all over the last few months? What kind of work has it been at Haymaker Gym? Obviously, I know you're based in Las Vegas for a large portion of your camp, but just talk to me a little bit about that.
Just, so we've been here for 2 days now, and it's just about keeping sharp, pads, bag, skipping, stretching, and the most important thing for us is rest. But we are going to get a few rounds in of sparring. We've brought Malik Scott, who's in great shape. He's lost a lot of weight now, and he's the type of fighters that keeps you on your feet. Great skills, great speed, and so we'll be doing some sparring with him this week, and then we're finishing off all our hard work this week, and then tapering off more next week.
What's it like going around to the shops nearby and being out and about in London? Are you recognised now? Do people stop you in the street for a photo?
People will be stopping us at the airport and stopping us here and there. So it's you're getting recognised more, and it's like, oh, I'm in England, I'm not at home, and people still recognise you. It's like, hey guys, thanks for the support. It's the support, the love, and just the welcome that we've got. We'd just like to thank all those who welcomed us, because it's being away from home isn't, it's pretty hard. But then when you're here and people welcome you, and you feel like it's another home. So.
What's that like? I mean, do you remember the first time that happened, being in New Zealand? I'm sure it was when you were an amateur. Do you remember the first time somebody came up to you and asked for an autograph or took a photo? Tell me about that.
I think, amateur and in newspaper, coming on TV, and then I think the first time I was with my close friends, and then someone sort of came up asked us for an autograph and photo, and then all my friends were like, "Oh, look, he made it! Oh, he's big time now!" And so. It was, and I was like, whoa, this is weird. And it sort of took me a while to get used to it, People coming and ask you for photos and autographs, you're like, sort of trying to get your head around why. But then TV, radio, and they sort of support you. And now everyone does it now, and my friends are like, my friends don't even want to walk with me because they have to take the photo for the supporters and friends. Yeah, so but in the beginning they were real like, oh, you made it now, you're famous. And I'm like, oh man, this is weird.
So now they're like, oh no, not again, Joe. I'm not your cameraman, I'm your friend. No, that's really cool. What was that like for you to deal with? You're somebody you mentioned that you were very shy initially. You're still chilled, nice and relaxed now. Is that sort of part and parcel of the job now? Do you kind of not that it's taken the gloss off it. I'm sure it's still lovely when people do come up to you and recognise. But is it now something that you've embraced and sort of adopted in your role as being one of the top heavyweights in the world?
Yeah, it's you sort of grow into it. You embrace it, you accept it, you enjoy it. You got to enjoy everything to do with boxing or everything to do with life. You got to enjoy the training. You got to enjoy the lead up to a fight, press conferences, weigh-ins. You got to enjoy the time that people sort of take to come and support you and show their love. And if they come and ask for your photo, sometimes they have to build the confidence to come and ask for a photo or autograph. And the least you can do is give them a smile, handshake, and say, hey, it's just little things like that can make someone's day, or actually just give someone confidence within themselves. So you never know what people are going through, but just, what I heard The Rock say, right? It's important. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
Another very well-known Samoan.
Very well-known Samoan. He's like the man. Yeah. We
could probably arrange maybe could arrange maybe a charity spar yourself with The Rock. That'd be quite good. You could stream it live on Boxing Social.
That'll be different. He's a beast, eh? He's I haven't met him. It'll be great to meet him one day. But he's an inspiration. He's very successful, but still down to earth, still nice to everyone. So he's a great example and a great role model for those who young, just the young youth growing up, looking at someone like him.
I mean, I loved The Rock when I was younger, and I'm not Samoan. So I mean, so what was it like for you growing up with this Samoan heritage and Samoan background and seeing The Rock and on TV? I mean, he's the coolest guy in the world, apart from you, of course. What was that like for you growing up and having that kind of guy on TV?
You're very proud. You're proud that you have someone from your culture who's doing very well, but also a great role model and a great representative of your culture. And so it's great to see him do well, and it's still great to see him still doing well, and they keep doing great movies, and he's just I think a great role model, great person all around.
moving back to your fight with Dillian Whyte, there's been a sort of criticism recently, especially on social media, about the fight being pay-per-view. Have you caught wind of any of that?
I've seen little comments here and there. People tag you, and so you can't really ignore it. And a lot of people are saying it shouldn't be on pay-per-view. Everyone has their opinion, and so for us, when we got given the opportunity to have it on pay-per-view, we grabbed it with both hands because it's it's for us. It's exciting to be a part of. It's not. You lose one fight, then you come to another fight like this, and you pay-per-view again, and it's for us. It's exciting, but I think the public have their choice whether they want to support it or not. And if they want to support it, thank you very much. If they don't want to support it, thank you very much. Or even, just as long as people know about the fight, then that's all good.
Does that bother you at all? Does it put not extra pressure, but does it make you think like, I'll show you pay-per-view? You want to see pay-per-view? I'll show you pay-per-view. Does that ever enter into your mind?
No. Despite that, I think I just want to prove a point to myself that I know that I can do a lot better than I did in the past, and I know that I can be the best in the world again. And so, despite comments and people's opinions, it's a point that I want to prove to myself and to the team.
Okay, and just finally, I mentioned in this interview about, and it's not something I'm just saying, but the hairs on my neck and arms does go when you are introduced in the Samoan tongue. If you would, I'd like you to maybe teach me a little bit of Samoan before we end this. So thank you. No rude words. We're a very respectful channel. So yeah, tell me a little something.
Tell you a little something, Samoan.
Yeah, teach me something. I want something that I can greet you with next week when I see you at the press conference. How's that?
Okay, so so you can say something like Malo Joseph. Say it. Malo Joseph.
Maho Joseph.
Malo Joseph.
Malo Joseph.
Wa mai oe.
What?
Wa mai oe.
Wa mai oi.
Yeah.
So
Malo Joseph.
Malo Joseph.
Wa mai oe.
Wa mai oi.
Yeah, it means, hey Joseph, how are you?
Say that again.
Malo Joseph or mai oe, which means, hey Joseph, how are you?
Okay, well, when I see you next week, I'll have that down. So I'm going to wear one of those Samoan outfits.
You know what you're going to say? Hey Joseph, how are you? You're gonna say
I guarantee I don't. How's that?
Okay. I hope you remember.
I'm going to turn up in one of those Samoan outfits, like the guys who walked you to the ring in the Joshua fight.
You leave, you go, fa.
See, that's a lot easier for me. So, fa. Okay, fantastic. It's a promise. Okay, just finally, give a thank you to your many, many fans. I mean, you are such a well-liked character. I really appreciate your time today. You've already thanked your fans who are going to buy the fight and the fans who aren't going to buy the fight already. But just give our fans and your own fans a little bit of an insight as to what to expect when you face Dillian Whyte next week at the O2.
It's pretty simple. When I face Dillian Whyte, it's going to be, I put it down, it's going to be a great fight. When I go, it's going to be different from the last fight. We're going to throw hands. It's going to, if you want a war, I'm ready for war. If you want to box, I'm ready to box. I'm ready to go I'm ready to go 12 rounds. Thank you all for the great support, for the love, for welcoming us again, Team Parker. We love being here. And, continue to support us because we're just trying to put out the best fights we can. And I know that my previous fights haven't been the best for a lot of supporters or fans, but I promise that it's going to continue to get better. And whawhitai lava.
See, I don't know that yet, but I'll work on that one as well. Somebody is going to get fired in that kitchen. Joseph Parker, thanks very much for having me down to the hotel today, and thank you for speaking to Boxing Social. Always a pleasure to catch up with you. Look forward to seeing you next week before you take on Dillian Whyte at the O2.
Thank you, whawhitai. God bless.
Fa.